Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another Community Empowerment Health Hour. It is so lovely to see you and to have you. This afternoon, we will have a great time. We are going to be blessed with a presenter that has been here before. His name is Rico Hill, and you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to come here. So we are so glad to see you and to have you. My name is Danielle, so it's nice to meet you. And before we continue, I will give a short bio of our presenter. So Rico Hill, he is a health evangelist / entrepreneur and a co-founder of the International Beehive Ministry. He's formerly an actor, screenwriter, and TV executive producer in Hollywood, but now he finds joy in reaching cities with the gospel and rewarding them with much more things than entertainment, but health. He is also the author of the 10 Steps of the New Life, and he is currently now working at the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. So I will give a short word of prayer, and then we will begin. Bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for today. Thank you, Father, for bringing us all here safely together. Please be with others who are on their way. Please be with the presenter, and continue to guide and to bless us. In your name we pray, amen. Before we continue, I want to remind you to please keep your microphones and your videos off and on mute. At the end, we will have a Q&A, and we will be taking your questions. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please go ahead and put them in the chat so we can address them at the end of the meeting. And after this is finished, we will have the next voice you will hear is Dr. Rico Hill.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate that. And I'd like to say good evening to all who have tuned in for health. Welcome. It's so good to be a part of this program once again. I always enjoy these events because, you know, it's so important for us to be looking at how we can not only live, but live more abundantly. How we can not only have health, but have great health to the extent that we are energized and we feel happy mentally, physically, and spiritually. And this evening is no different. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and get into our presentation this evening. I'm going to share my screen, and I have a presentation that has been prepared. And I think you'll be blessed. There's so many things to know and understand about the topic that we have this evening. Silence everything so there are no distractions. I'm going to look, if someone from Light Bearers could stay with their camera on. It's always helpful to me as a presenter to know that I've got some eye contact with someone who is seeing what I'm seeing so that I don't go down the path and something happens with the technology and the slides aren't changing or something like that. So if someone could, there you are, Danelle, thank you. I'm looking at you, you can see me, I can see you. If something is not right, you'll let me know. I appreciate that. So it's time, family, it's time to get healthy. And, you know, we throw that word around so often, but we really want to understand what it means. Tonight, we want to understand a subject that is really understood from the scientific community. And by the way, I'm not a doctor. Thank you for that distinction, but it's not mine. I am a health revivalist and health evangelist, and but I'm not a doctor. So I just want to make that clear. But right now, it is so important for us to start to manage something that really is causing so much discomfort and leading to so much sickness and disease. And we want to understand and give a framework this evening on disease and the prevention of disease, and how often the stress that we experience can be managed. And we're going to get into that this evening as we go through. So presentation tonight is simple diet changes to manage stress. We're going to manage our stress. Now, this is a Chinese proverb. It says, what I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. So I'm going to show you some things tonight that you might remember, because it's going to be so important for you to remember as we seek to get healthy, to be much more energized. And, if you can see it, there's another proverb that says the man who teaches learns twice. So my hope is that you'll hear, not only hear, but see, and you'll remember, and then you'll share. And then when you share, then somebody else will be blessed and you'll remember just as effectively. I recall when my late mother was ill, and I just was trying all that I could. I was a mommy's boy and loved my mama. And I know there's some other mommy's boys out there somewhere, but I love mama. And when she got ill, I wanted to help her. And my mother, she didn't know a lot of what most people don't know. So she's kind of representative of, the general population. They just go about life and they just wonder why their body begins to break down, but they don't make changes, lifestyle changes that actually help them to promote health and have better health. So I began to do what she could not do or didn't do or wasn't really as inclined to do. I began to study everything about health, about diet, about food, about the human body, our physiology. And as I began to learn it, I began to teach it to her and share with her. And it was amazing results that we saw. But it was something I believe that everyone can do, and it will be a blessing to others. But my mother suffered from heart disease. She had diabetes. She had high blood pressure, all of these things because there was cigarettes involved. There was, just a bad diet that was involved, and she just really didn't know much better. But we're in a different world now. That was years ago. We're in a world now where we can actually learn these things and be able to apply them and have better results and better outcomes as a result, especially in the world that we live in now, where information is so free-flowing and we have challenges because of the pandemic and all of that. This has forced us in a way to really take another look. And it is my hope tonight that we're taking another look, a deeper look, because here's what we found. If the pandemic didn't teach us anything, yeah, we had the social distancing and the mask wearing and the, being secluded and sequestered and, all of these things. But at the heart of it all was simply this. We found that those in the South who did not have a certain diet, who did not eat well, live well, and have a healthy lifestyle, had the worst outcomes. So this really made us take notice that it is imperative that we think more about health, make lifestyle changes. And tonight, I want to show you something about stress as it relates to diet, or diet as it relates to stress, that you can not only hear, but you can see and remember and share. So, trust versus stress. I need for you to understand. There are lots of things. I mean, we're busy, but we're bored. We are entertained, but we are, we're overloaded, and everything is causing us stress. And you need to know tonight that we are hardwired not to stress. And that may sound strange, and it's going to almost sound like I'm contradicting myself as I go later on and say stress is natural. See, stress is natural, but it must be managed. And how do you manage it? You manage it by trusting. So I know that as we talk about trust versus stress, I want you to understand that the human body gets stressed out when you're not trusting. Now, I know what you're saying, and what you're saying, well, trust who? Huh? What? Or trust what? What do you want me to trust? Well, let me just let you know. And I don't mean to go right in on this, but I have to. Who should you trust? Not you. What should you trust? What should you trust? Not the things that you've been doing. Now, that is not to say that everything that you're doing is bad. I should say is everything that you're doing is bad. I'm not saying that. And that you can't trust anything about yourself. You probably live long enough, you learn some things, and some things you can trust. But let me tell you this, many of us get into the condition of having lifestyle diseases and issues because of the fact that we've been trusting in something about what we learned from somewhere else or tradition. And now, as you start to get older, you start to get sick. They say that in your 20s, you live it up. We have a good time. We take it all in. We are overloaded. We run as fast as we can. We're as busy as we can possibly be. We eat whatever we want. We go where we want to go. We do everything just in excess. And we say, ha, I'm invincible. I'm young. I can do it. I can do whatever I want, right? Then you get into your 30s and you start to say, wait a minute, I need to slow down a little bit. Maybe you start to have a family. Yeah, start to have a family, and then that adds to what the abuse your body has been receiving. And now, by the time you get to your 40s, you start to get diagnosed with things. Then, by the time you get in your 50s, now you're taking prescription drugs for those things that you've been diagnosed with in your 40s. And then, by the time you get in your 60s, and especially if you happen to be in certain ethnic groups, African Americans, Latino Americans, you start to die from the very things that you were doing in your 20s that you did to excess. 20s, you have fun. 30s, you start to slow down a little bit. 40s, you get diagnosed. 50s, you're taking pills for it. And 60s, maybe 70s, and then you start to die. Who wants that? And what kind of life is that? So I'm saying this evening that we should not trust ourselves to do that which we've always done. Many of the things, and people say, well, no, I'm doing better now. You know, I eat better now. I exercise. I'm a part of a gym. Well, the things that we experience later in life is not because of what we're doing at that moment, is what we were doing 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So what's the solution? Am I doomed? Are we all just doomed because of how we live? No, we can begin to make the changes, but it's not just I go to the gym. It's not that I'm eating a little better. It's really understanding how the body works. And that's what we're going to deal with as we look at what can we trust? Who can we trust? Well, let's first deal with what causes sickness and disease. I love a definition that I use all the time. I use this definition because I feel like it's inspired. It's an inspired definition. You ready for this? This definition says, disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. This is from a little book that I really highly recommend. I love this book. It's called Ministry of Healing. And that's found on page 126 into 127. And it says that disease, listen, is an effort of nature. So that means your body is making an effort to do something. And what is it trying to do? It's trying to free you. See, you can end up being in bondage because of how you used to live. You can be in bondage by what you're eating right now. You can be in bondage because of the cigarettes you used to smoke, or the alcohol or the liquor you used to drink. These kind of things can place you into bondage, and the body, when it starts to get sick and disease comes as a result, it's not some evil thing that's trying to overtake your body. It is simply an effort of your wonderfully made system, your body trying to free itself. And it's always as a result of something you've done in the past. So listen very carefully. Let's make sense of this inspired definition because it's the basis and the foundation of everything else that I'm going to be explaining and talking about this evening. So if the body is making an effort, if nature, that is the natural recovery system, the system that brings about homeostasis, that's the place where your body is in good health. If it's trying to get back there and it's making an effort, and that effort that it's making is making you sick. Wait a minute, my body's trying to make me well, but it's making me sick. How do I deal with this strange dichotomy? Well, you have to assist nature or work with nature in its effort to free you up. And one of the ways that you do that is you just work in harmony. That's making changes. And when we think about stress, see, if you've got a lot of stress, and we today have a lot of stress for so many reasons, but I'm narrowing down the focus to just deal with it as it relates to diet and food. But there's so many things. We watch entertainment, we watch the news, we're information overloaded. We don't exercise. All these things can cause stress. And your body is saying, if it's starting to get, start to have some issues, your body's saying, get up and move. If you're starting to have issues where, you are constantly having these mood changes and things like that, a little water will help. Body stresses out and you don't drink water, right? So many things that's happening, but the body is like, it has its own alarm system. And that alarm system is called sickness. That alarm system is called disease. When you are stressed out, and you can feel it in your gut. You can feel it through your headaches. And I'm going to talk about some of the symptoms of stress. When you feel these things physiologically in your body is saying, the thing that you're violating right now is trust. You're not trusting. You're not trusting in, and I'm going to put it this way. I'm going to be kind of like project the future. After you hear what I'm saying and you see what I'm saying, you're going to go away, and then you might go back to some of the same things, and then your body may stress out even more because it'll be saying, you know what? You're not trusting in that information that you heard and you saw. You've gone back to things even though you know better, because see, it's like to know a thing or to hear a thing and to do it not, oh, it's bad. Because your body, things happen on a subconscious level, you understand, down to your cellular level. The things that you're hearing and seeing tonight are preparing your body for recovery. And then when you consciously say, good information, but I'm going to do this. And then before you know it, I'm stressed out more than ever. Your body's saying, why aren't you trusting? Why aren't you listening? So what is stress? Let's go through that real quick. Stress is the body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or response. That's what stress is. It's the body's reaction, sort of like the definition that I just gave, where in the definition, it looked at the fact that your body's making an effort based on something that's come in, some change that's happened, something that's continuous. Your body's trying to fix or make an adjustment. And when you're not making that adjustment, you're stressed out, right? There's this story of this college professor, and she was trying to teach on this whole idea of stress. And she took a glass and she filled it up with water and rocks. So it had a little bit of mass and volume and weight to it. And she says, here, hold it out before the class. And the class kind of laughed because they're like, what's the big deal here? And the person stood there holding, said, that's enough. Is that good enough? And was attempting to stop this whole demonstration. She says, no. Continue to hold it out for just a few moments. And she says, while you're holding out, we're going to continue to talk about the lesson. And she continued on. And then as the person was holding it out, the arm was getting weaker and weaker and was looking around for some relief. and it became so unbearable. It felt like the person who was holding it was holding 1,000 pounds. Now, so what was the point of the demonstration and the lesson? Stress happens not because you're holding the glass. It's when you're holding it for a duration of time and holding it consistently. So that's the problem. The problem with stress is when we are actually holding that thing for a long time and we're doing it frequently and consistently, almost like it's happening daily, right? And then it becomes a problem. It becomes unbearable. And like that glass that easily can be lifted and held up, but over time, it becomes unbearable. So look at this. Look at this. These are just some stress statistics. 43% of all adults suffer adverse health effects from stress. And this one is amazing. 75 to 90% of all doctors' hospital visits are stress related. Did you know that? People are stressed out up to 90% according to statistics. Stress can play a part of problems such as headaches, high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, skin conditions, asthma, arthritis, depression, and anxiety. All can be triggered by stress. Holding something for so long in a way that you have not managed it. Oh, we're going to get to the food part of this, but right now, I want us to see what is it that we're talking about? What is this stress that we're talking about? OSHA has declared that stress is a hazard in the workplace, costing $300 billion annually. The lifetime prevalence of an emotional disorder is more than 50%, often due to chronic untreated stress reactions. So, unmanaged stress, that's what we're describing, can lead to several lifestyle diseases, including high blood pressure, heart disease, and cancer. Now, let's link that up. So if your body's stressed out already, and it's unmanaged stress, and on top of that, you're putting things into your body that also cause stress, you have a cocktail for sickness and death. And this is what, when we talk about getting healthy, 2022, this is February 2022. We've got 10 more months to really just be able to go through this year and say, this was a victorious year. I was triumphant. I made some changes. Life changed. I got to be much better at living and focus less on sickness. There's too much sickness around us anyway. So anyway, this idea of unmanaged stress and then coupling that with foods that actually cause stress. And I'm going to show those to you and show you the foods that actually reduce stress. You've got a serious problem on your hands. Okay. It is possible, and this is something that you can answer in your mind. It's a question. It is possible to completely eliminate all stress. Is it true or false? Of course, you got it right. It's false. You cannot eliminate stress because think about it. Think about it with me. If the body is making an effort to actually free you, wouldn't you want to be free? And if the body starts to stress out because it's letting you know you're not trusting, you're not doing the things that you know better to do, it is in a large way, a significant way, it is much better for you to be able to have that response, to have that alarm system that's built in, that is intrinsic to you, to let you know where you are so that you can make the changes that are necessary. So it is necessary, hardwired in us to begin to stress when a change is needed, when something needs to be set down, when something needs to be relieved. Put the glass down, put the stress down, pick up the things that actually will make you better. Yeah. Stress is necessary, but it is harmful when its intensity or duration exceeds a person's capacity to react constructively. Now, that's what I'm describing here. We need to be able to react constructively and do it quickly so that we can actually identify the stressor and put it down. Identify the stressor and put it down. Now, hear what I'm saying. I'm saying that for a reason, because you can identify the stressor and you can put it down. That would include the very food. See, I'm setting you up. I'm setting you up because I'm taking you somewhere. Before I get to the food, I want you to understand it, because I don't want anybody to react and say, oh, you telling me that is stressing me out, right? So we want to understand the physiology of stress. We want to understand the components of stress. And so that when we get to the food part of it and how you can manage it through diet change, you won't be so shocked. I don't want to stress you out. So let's keep going. So again, stress is necessary, but it's harmful when its intensity or duration exceeds a person's capacity to react constructively. Now, that duration or that intensity can also be related to how long you do these things that I'm going to show you. That is foods. But let's continue to understand the physiology of stress. So according to Dr. Walter Bradford Cannon, and he was a Harvard professor who coined the phrase that is very popular, fight or flight response. You know, that idea of either if the bear is coming, you're either going to fight the bear or you're going to run from the bear. Either way, your body's going to create some adrenaline for you to use in a short burst to be able to survive. Isn't it amazing that how your body is designed in such a way to keep you alive? Stress is no different. So when we look at stress in that context, it is absolutely necessary, isn't it? Have you ever been chased by a bear or a tiger? I've been chased by a bear once, and let me tell you, because of adrenaline, I'm here to tell the story. I won't go into the story, but I was in Colorado, and sure enough, I ran into a bear, and boy, did adrenaline kick in. And now I'm here to tell the story. So he coined this phrase, fight or flight response. The effects of negative emotions also is a part of this. And this is important for us to understand, because you can think, well, he's going to tell me about food. He's going to tell me to exercise. He's going to tell me to avoid this and this and this. But very often we don't know that jealousy, hate, envy, bitterness, anger, and danger actually create poisons, not only psychologically, but physiologically in the blood. Now, why is this important? Because we're talking about what goes into the system and what goes into the blood. And what goes into the blood is circulating, coursing through your veins, and you need to make changes to rid the body of those things, because the more they stay, the more they cause damage. In fact, stress affects every organ of the human system, every organ, every nerve, every part of your being. When you begin to have those chemicals that are flowing through your veins, coursing through your blood, and they're not doing what they're intended to do, when you look at the fight or flight response and those hormones that are pouring into your blood so that you can take care of a situation quickly, and yet, no, you're living that way every day. You have chronic stress. It's every single day. You're not burning it. You're not exercising. You're not eating it or dealing with it from a dietary standpoint. You are constantly having something in your body that your body has to deal with. And as I gave you that definition, your body's trying to free you from it. It's trying to free you. And I don't want to get into the psychology of this all, but it all plays a part. If you harbor jealousy, then your body is saying, wait a minute, what is this? It's not natural to the human system. Although, listen, it is a part of how we are because of our upbringing and our brokenness and all the trauma and the things that have happened to us. We may feel jealousy, we may feel hate and envy and bitterness and even rage and anger. We see it every day in the news, right? But the human body, the way it was designed, is not designed to harbor such things. And therefore, when they are there, they have to be put down. They have to be ridded from the system. Otherwise, they become all types of problems. We'll talk about that more. So here's how you know you're stressed out. You felt it, that muscle tension, the pain, that stiffness in your neck. You're restless. You have angry outbursts. Come on, somebody knows what I'm talking about. Get headaches, anxiety. You see the whole list there. There are all kinds of things that happen when you're stressed out. And most times, listen, you don't even know that that's what it was. You start to use more alcohol and drug use. People have been stressed out over this pandemic. And guess what? Suicidal ideation is up 65%. We see all of the suicides that are taking place. People are checking out. They're checking out because they just don't know how to manage it. Because what are they trusting? Think about it. Think about it. Some of the sad stories that we've heard recently, just in the last couple of weeks. People were stressed out over a situation, and they began to trust in what was in their own mind about how to deal with it. And that wasn't good enough. And they tried it again, and that wasn't good enough. They may have been eating things that were actually intensifying or exacerbating their stress. And then they got to the place where they said, you know what? All the things that I thought of failed. Well, let me try this other thing. And then that was the checking out point. And none of those things should have been on the menu in terms of how to manage that stress. They trusted in something else. And what I'm sharing this evening is what we should be at the very basic level trusting in. These are the things that, just in terms of trusting in principles of health, that's what I'm sharing. And I always share, whether it's rest, you don't get enough sleep, you stress out. Don't drink enough water, you stress out. These are simple things. Don't eat the right foods, you stress out. Don't exercise, you stress out. Don't get out in the sun and in fresh air, your body feels stressed, right? All of these things will contribute to your stress. And really, they're the things, I like to call them the doctors that make house calls, right? And they're free for the most part. They're free and they're simple and accessible. Let's keep going. Cortisol. This is the thing. When your body is stressed out, it's releasing a few hormones. Cortisol is one of them. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It could be epinephrine. It could be norepinephrine. So all these things are stress related and basically also known as adrenaline, and it actually is released into the body. Now, cortisol is the one that is super, super bad. Now, naturally occurring in the body, but that's why you have to get up and you have to move, because when you move, you burn it, right? But it's something it's good in the body for a short period, but if it's in the body all the time for long duration, it's toxic to the system. So cortisol is a hormone released into the bloodstream when a person is stressed and can cause abdominal fat to accumulate. Now, why would it cause abdominal fat? Well, here is how the food comes in. Number one, two reasons. First of all, when it's in the body, it stimulates the brain, sends signals to the brain, chemical signals to the brain, telling you to eat more carbohydrates, eat more fat, eat more junk food, eat. It's trying to satisfy something that is a chemical brain response to this cortisol. And not only that, when that cortisol is moving, this is the second reason, when it's coursing through your blood, in your blood veins, vessels, when it's moving through your system, the body has to get rid of it. And the best way to do it is to burn it through movement. If you're not doing that, the body's so sophisticated, friends, that it says, well, we can't just let it keep coursing through our body. We have to save the body. Tell you, your body loves you. It loves you. And it's constantly always trying to save us. That's just so powerful to me, the idea. And then what it does, so that it doesn't kill us or cause further damage, it actually stores it in fat, visceral fat. And that's something that actually ends up putting a little weight around your midsection. And inside that visceral fat, that's that deep fat that's sort of suffocating when you suffocating your organs, your liver, your kidneys. It's surrounding them. They can't breathe, and then it causes something that's called, we've heard a lot about during the pandemic, cytokines. Cytokines are no joke, and they're bad, cause a lot of problems. So, but the body, again, you got fat. Why did I pick up all this weight? Why am I getting so much weight around my midsection? Well, the reason might be because you're stressed out. And your body's letting you know, this is what happens, causes you to eat more, and we're trying to save you, excuse me, by storing it as fat. So what else causes stress? You know that your emotional intelligence, your ability to identify, assess, and control emotions in yourself plays a role in how you manage stress. But food can play a role. Alcohol can play a role, things I'm going to talk about. You also know your overall outlook on life, whether positive or negative, can also affect how you will be stressed. Keep managing stress. It's a look and focus on the positives in life. Live every day with gratitude for all that you have. This is trusting in something outside of yourself. Trusting in something outside of yourself, something that you can partake of. And this is critical. Okay, so while there is such a thing as positive stress, preparation and determination are required to bring out the best in the individual. Preparation and determination. I like this idea because, you know, all of us have been guilty of this. Like today, I'll give you an example. I had a doctor's appointment, and I'd given myself enough time, but then there were those 2 or 3 things that I didn't do. I didn't do them. I told myself to do them, but I didn't do it. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And then because of that, I had to go and get that thing. When I went to get that thing, I couldn't find that thing. So I was about 10 minutes late for my doctor's appointment. It was preparation that actually, or the lack thereof, that actually caused me a little bit of stress. So preparation, determination. All right, let's talk about food. These are the 8, count them, 8 things that you might be doing that's causing you stress. And then when I talk about the foods that won't cause you stress or actually helps you deal with stress, because once you got cortisol, you got inflammation, you got all types of inflammatory cells, and you're like, the alarms are going off like when I live not too far from the fire station. They're not too far from my little country property. And, you know, I hear the alarms going when there's a fire, you know, and that's a perfect illustration, you know. Sometimes your body is under such stress, it's like a fire that's taking place inside your body, and your body's trying to rid it. So it starts to sound the alarm for you to do something about it, right? You got to put out that fire, right? So we'll talk about that, and I'll just put them in like one nice little neat package. So number 1, sugar, added sugar. Why? Sugar depletes your B vitamins. It's a robber. That's what it's like, a thief. And it doesn't just come in at night. It comes all day long. And it just steals your B vitamins, which, you know, are so necessary for your, you know, for brain health, for your so many aspects of your health. The B vitamins are necessary. So sugar, let me be very clear. I love sugar. Who doesn't? I've got a sweet tooth that is almost uncontrollable. Can't be satisfied. Nonetheless, there are ways, first and foremost, you can still do sugar and enjoy sugar. First, you can enjoy it in your fruit. Fruit is a natural sugar. That's the best thing that you can ever do. But you know what? Every now and then we desire something nice, something that's a treat, something that's a dessert. Nothing wrong with it. But it's necessary that you prepare it in a way with the right kind of sugar. And there are so many good natural sugars now. This is not 1950, where everybody was doing white, refined, crystallized, poisonous sugar and didn't know any better. We live in a day and age where you've got coconut sugar, you've got date sugar, you've got blackstrap molasses, you've got organic cane sugar, you know, so many types of sugars that they're coming up with, and many of them are good, they're tasty, you can bake with them, you can do all sorts of things. Nobody needs to go and buy that white, refined, crystallized, poisonous sugar that only depletes your B vitamins, cause your immune system to be wrecked, really, and causes the body to stress. Remember, is whenever there's something that causes the body to just kind of be knocked off center, and the body knows you just, wait a minute, what did you just do? What just happened? We got to fix it. And fixing is a stress situation that's trying to help you, but you don't even know it. Sometimes it's not even like noticeable. You're like, oh, I ate that and I got a headache. That's your body stressing out, telling you, I don't like that. You know, you had it and then you're like, my joints started aching. Why did my joints? Your body's trying to let you know, I don't like that. And it's something that's going, and sometimes, like, I'll give you an example. Now, sometimes we go to different, things we call potlucks or fellowship dinners, and people say, oh, you got to try my dessert. And I'm pretty strict about what I eat. But, sometimes people will insist. I usually, typically avoid anything that people have made because I just don't know what they put in it, right? But then some people will tell you, oh, it is kosher. I did this, and then I'll say, all right, I'll try it. And I try it, and right away, my knees start to ache. And I'm like, that had real sugar in it. They gave me real sugar, right? So these things are signals to your body, and that's a stress signal letting you know that something's not right. It should not, hear me, it should not ever be ignored, ever. You should always recognize that there's something here that I need to pay attention to. Now, so added sugars, like in your condiments, all types of things, they add sugars, they disguise them, they hide them, and all those kind of things. The main thing you want to avoid is, you can do honey, you can do maple syrup. Those are good as well, right? But you want to avoid that white refined sugar. There's just no, and I'm going to talk about the number 5, the artificial sweeteners. There's like 3, 4, 5 of them now. And they're just really, really bad. Stress out the body. Number 2 is caffeine. Some people will say excess caffeine because they leave a little wiggle room to have some coffee. Now, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. It's your business, whatever you eat, whatever you do, but I'm letting you know that caffeine is in your coffee, in your soft drinks, and even in your things like, your Sprite or your 7-Up, your Mountain Dew, those things. They say the uncola, but it ain't uncaffeine. It's got a ton of caffeine in it, right? And when you do that, it causes your nervous system, which is, again, foolish. Sometimes when you're doing the caffeine, you also do a lot of sugar as well. So now you are putting stress on the body, not only on your organs and all that, but also on your your central nervous system, which is, you need those B vitamins to keep that intact and healthy. Yeah. You need that. But sugar is robbing it, and then it's also causing your nerves to just be erect from the caffeine. So, not telling anybody what to do is your business, but I'm letting you know, here are the things that's causing us stress, and we can function. We become functionally stressed out. We just go about our day, and we just kind of feel an ache here and some stiffness there, and all types of things. But at the same time, we just keep on going about our business. Like, you know what? It's a small price to pay, but little do you know, it's a huge one in the long run because it's the duration. Remember that. Alcohol, enough said. It's turns into sugar in the body. It's stressing out, puts a ton of stress and overtaxes your liver. That's why people end up with cirrhosis of the liver. And you can have non-alcoholic psoriasis of the liver, or cirrhosis rather, of the liver, based on the fact that you're just doing a ton of sugar. But the faster way to do it is through alcohol. And they came out with a study about 3 weeks ago, and it says no amount of alcohol is good ever. So, of course, once they come out with that evidence-based research, somebody comes right behind it and says, well, you can do a little bit here and a little bit here. And wine is, all these things, and they try to clean it up. But, for a lot of us, we've always known that alcohol in no amounts is good. It stresses the body. Why? Because it is not natural for something to go into your bloodstream and cause you to become stupefied, to become inebriated, to be compromised. So, of course, your body is going to stress out and try to let you know, again, I don't like this. What about refined carbs? What are we talking about there? We're talking about your cookies. I love cookies. People who know me know I love cookies. It's kind of it's something that is a holdover from childhood. That was my reward system. But I have had to find ways to do the cookies that I like and either make them myself or get them without the refined sugar or the refined flour in them, right? And the best way is to make them yourself. And I have no problem doing it. I'll do it because, I got to support my habit. No, I'm just kidding. But I do like to do it. So I'm going to do it in the most healthy way. But refined or processed carbohydrates is, that's your denatured bread. That means they've taken out all of the good stuff. They've taken out the wheat germ. They've taken out the fiber. And that's a problem. When you take out that fiber, when you take out the thing that actually is going to be good for your gut health, then you are stressing the body out because now you're getting empty calories and you're getting in something into your system that does not help you at all. The body stresses out. Artificial sweeteners, already mentioned those. I can't think of any of the names of them right now. Sweet and low, there's one. How about fried foods? Fried foods. I'm not gonna lie to you. Fried foods are delicious. Yes, they are. Fried foods, and everybody knows it. I mean, I didn't just pop out of some place and go, oh, I'm a health reformer. I'm the healthiest. No. I remember fried foods. Fried this, fried that, but there's a limit. In fact, fried foods are stressing people out. Again, if you go and zero in on the populations of the US, especially the US, because we have such bad diets. In fact, we call them the SAD diet, standard American diet. You go to the regions where people do a lot of fried foods, Louisiana, like New Orleans proper, Mississippi, Alabama, places where it's just a part of their tradition. You find that people have the comorbidities, they have the underlying health issues that we saw at the height of the deaths in this country as a result of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. So fried foods, those people for years and years, they didn't know that their body was breaking down. They just enjoyed the taste. They enjoyed the fat because it's fat. Somebody wrote a book called Fat, Salt, and Sugar, Fat, and Salt, something like that. And it looks at those three, somebody called them little devils, because together they are so addictive in terms of how your body it causes a chemical signal in the brain where you just go, your brain lights up whenever these go into the body. You become addicted to it. But little did you know, while your brain is loving it and your mouth is loving it, your body is saying, please, you're causing stress. And mentioning salt, obviously, once someone has been doing salt for a really, really long time, they subject themselves to high blood pressure. And the first thing they tell you once you cross that threshold, they say you got to cut back on your salt. And then you got to live life without any seasonings. And you're miserable. And then you start to compromise and you try to overcompensate with something else. And you just go on this downward spiral. But these are the things that cause the body stress. And finally, the eighth one is processed meat. Processed meat, we're talking about your salami, even your good old turkey breast, that's supposed to be completely innocuous, completely, benign. It's something that if you're eating this kind, is the way that they're processing it. That's the issue. Now, one could say and make the argument that it's meat in general that's a problem. But the World Health Organization has classified processed meats, your roast beef, your turkey, your bologna, your salami, all of these to be a class A1 carcinogen, meaning that it is linked to cancer. There is a correlation, is associated with cancer. But cancer comes further down the line. The body has been stressed out all along. All along, your body's just been saying, what is this? What is this? What? It was tasty, it was delicious. And even sometimes for people who are really just the place they love to go to is Subway, and they get that sandwich every day, and they love it, love it, love it. And one day they wake up, wait a minute, why am I having ulcers? Why am I having gut pain and issues? Well, guess what? That was because the body was stressed out, and it began through the stress, every organ, including your stomach, began to have perforations, and the acid in the stomach began to do its thing and burning holes into the lining of the stomach. And then you've got ulcers, peptic ulcers, bleeding ulcers, and these become an issue, but it all leads. Now, once you do that, well, what happens next? The body is trying to repair itself, and then you have some tissue that is damaged, and there's injury to the tissue in the lining of the stomach. And then before you know it, oh no, stomach cancer. But it all started through stressing of the body and causing these kinds of inflammatory issues. So those are the foods. Now, I said I was going to just package for you the foods that you can do. And here it is in one nice package. Now, you've seen this. Remember the Chinese proverbs? You've heard it, but now I've shown it to you. And the proverb says, that which I hear, I forget, but what I see, I remember. I remember. And I want you to remember these things. Now, there are others, but these are the main ones that we in this country are dealing with on an ongoing basis. Now, beginning to wrap this up, I want you to understand the package that is so simple, you don't even have to write this down. A plant-based diet. A plant-based diet. Eating the colors of the rainbow. Eating your kale and your broccoli, and eating your red lettuce and your carrots and your cabbage, and eating your, I like red onions, your red onions and your potatoes, and all the things that are plant-based, your nuts and seeds. And when I say nuts and seeds, you're eating your walnuts because it's good for the brain because of the omega-3s. You're eating your Brazil nuts because they actually reduce your cholesterol, bringing it down. Every time you're eating Brazil nuts, you only need 3 to 4 per day. That you're eating your almonds and having your chia seeds and your flax seeds. Flax seeds are good for bringing down stress. Now, all of these things that I mentioned, then your fruits, you name it, whatever fruits you like, right? What is it about all of these in a plant-based diet that actually helps with your stress? Number one, listen very carefully. They are prebiotic. So many people are running out and getting probiotics, whether in a pill form or kombucha, right? All over Whole Foods and every health food store, and even in your regular grocery stores, they are pushing kombucha. Now, if you've got a problem and you need to sort of balance out your gut flora or the microbiome, as they call it now, as they understand it, then okay, fine. But as a lifestyle ongoing basis, we ought to be taken in prebiotics. Prebiotics, guess what it is? It's just fiber. It's high fiber foods. That's why your refined carbs, your breads like Wonder Bread and these white breads, when you just say, oh, I'm so hungry, I have no time to cook, I'm just going to go by McDonald's or Burger King, and I'm just going to get me a burger. And that white bread is like just sitting there saying, go ahead, eat me. I'm going to stress you out. Why? Because it has no fiber. And see, fiber is prebiotic. And when it's no fiber, your body says, wait a minute, what's going on? What's going on? And they start to ring the alarm bells and they say, something's wrong down in the stomach. Send out the inflammatory cells. And now inflammation happens. You're stressed out and you don't even know it. You just ate that thing and it was delicious. Yeah, it tasted great. But at the end of the day, your body was under attack. It was under severe attack because did the burger have fiber in it? No. Did the bread have fiber? No. Did the ketchup have sugar? Absolutely. Right? And everything else, even the French fries. Oh, you got the French fries too? Did you know that the main ingredient in McDonald's French fries is not salt? It's sugar. Why do they put sugar in French fries? They've come up with a chemical way to actually produce sugar that you can't taste the sweetness. They put it in there for the purpose of that signal in the brain that goes, woo, I want that again. And it's just tricking the brain and stressing out the body. This is a very lethal concoction and method of getting you to come back again and again and again. So fibrous food, high fiber food is prebiotic. Why? Because when you eat high fiber food, it goes down into the gut, into the microbiome, and that's what your gut bacteria likes to eat. It likes fiber. You were designed for your gut to consume fiber. And as a reward system to you, it produces a chemical called butyrate. And butyrate sends out this chemical signal from it to your cells and the inflammatory cells that are raring and ready to go, and says, everything's good with this meal. No stress, chill out. When you don't have it, it only reads it as something's wrong. Something's wrong. There is an overabundance or proliferation of bad bacteria in the gut. Stress out, cause an inflammation, an inflammatory response, and let's fix the problem. And there was really no bad problem other than what you were eating and putting in the body. So really, you've got lots of things that cause problems, and it's one fix, and that's a plant-based diet, getting more greens and fibrous food. Imagine if you just had that, oh, I didn't mention the cheese that you had on that burger. That has no fiber either. So no fiber in the cheese, no fiber in the burger, no fiber in the bread. And all of these things were a meal. And then the French fries, sugar, sugar, sugar. And then, oh, you chased it down with a cola, caffeine. Now you've got a meal that is, think about, the average American calls that a meal every day, and one to be desired. That burger with that bread, denatured bread with cheese, with a lot of sugar, a soda, and French fries, and voila, you've got billions and billions of dollars going to the pharmaceutical industry and the hospital systems because people are so sick. And they never knew it all started with a stress response that was signaling to the body, let's make a change. Now, as we begin to wrap up this presentation, I just wanted to show you how, even when, because I talked about what you did in your 20s, remember that? Talked about what you did in your 20s, and then it affected you in your 30s, and then in the 40s, you got diagnosed, and in the 50s, you were taking medication several times a day, and then in the 60s, you began to just downward spiral to death. Well, there's something called telomeres. Telomeres are like the little caps on your shoelaces. They're part of your, the chromosome, right? And it's the end cap on the chromosomes, and they're supposed to be linked. They've got a certain length to them. And when they become shortened, it is a perfect indicator of life expectancy. And they found that one study they did with caretakers, people who took care of a disabled child, or maybe a parent or grandparent who had Alzheimer's or some type of degenerative disease like that. And sometimes that can be a stressful situation. And when it's not managed well, the body's really, really stressed out. And they looked at the telomeres of people who are caregivers, and they had these very short telomeres, very short, which means that they weren't going to live that long, right? So this is one of the indicators that shows us exactly where we are in life expectancy. And people who eat a certain way, live a certain way, have a certain lifestyle, have very short telomeres. And that's why people who live this lifestyle have a shorter life than those who don't. And I'm showing you tonight what's bad and what's causing the stress as it relates to food, and understanding stress and how to manage it. So managing stress sometimes is, not sometimes, but managing stress in this instance is managing your diet and your food, right? Mm-hmm. And they find that a group of people who live a plant-based diet live 7 to 10 years longer than those who are subsisting on a SAD diet, or standard American diet, the burger, the fries, the cheese, and all those things. and they have shorter telomeres, while the other group has longer telomeres. But look, here's some hope for those who may have gone down their lives years and years and years and years eating wrong. And then you decide, well, I want to make the change. How can I change? Show me how I can change. Is there any hope for me? Well, nuts and seeds lengthen your telomeres. They did a study at Brigham Young University, nearly 6,000 men and women between 20 and 84. And the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey did this study, and how they looked at how much and how often they ate nuts and seeds. Listen to this: for every 10 grams per day, telomeres were 8.5 units longer over the course of just 1 year. What does that mean to us? That means that if you are actually changing the diet, you can counteract what you did 20, 30, 40 years ago and start to rebuild the telomeres. And as a result of rebuilding the telomeres, something down as small as your chromosome, you actually are rebuilding your life. So what can you trust? Who can you trust? You can trust that what I'm telling you is not the science, but it's in the body that was designed in such a way that you have the ability to have your body restored, to have that which you yourself, through your own lifestyle choices, began to break down. You can have it restored. You can actually have your body get into a better position and condition with just changes. That is encouraging to me. It should be encouraging to you when you consider that all you have to do is make these kind of changes. All right? Give you a few more slides, and then we'll begin to close this out. So trust more and stress less. Trust more in the information. Trust that stress produces cortisol, which increases blood pressure. Trust that your stress levels influence diabetic symptoms. Yes, you're stressed out, you get that fat around the tummy, you get insulin resistance, and you actually end up diabetic. Trust more. Mental stress can cause a rise in your cholesterol. Some people wonder, well, I eat right. I eat a plant-based diet. I'm doing all the things that I was told to do, but yet my cholesterol is so high. Well, guess what? You're probably stressed out. It could be that anger. It can be that jealousy. It can be the bitterness. It can be those things that's causing the problem. It's not just food. It's also what you are allowing yourself to hold on to. Trust more that stress levels are linked with increased risk of CVD, that's cardiovascular disease. Stress creates cortisol, which leads to abdominal obesity. Talked about that, right? So individuals who are negative and pessimistic handle stress better. That is false. What are the 3 ways to address stress? Minimize. That means the things that you might be taking into your body, you need to minimize them or eliminate them altogether. But you know what? We want to start somewhere. Minimize first. Cut back on the coffee. Cut back on the sugar. Cut back on the processed meats and the meats in general. Cut back on the sodas, and if there's alcohol in your experience, cut back and start to move down the path of eliminating. You know, we're living in a time where we're not just trying to. We certainly shouldn't be elevating our risk factors. We should be decreasing them, and that comes from people always say baby steps. For me personally, when I saw that, you know what, you don't have time to be messing around with these things, I said, you know what, I just eliminate altogether. I move from those things, especially in light of the fact that there are alternatives. There are other things that you can do, and I've talked about those tonight as well. Manage. That means you are taking stock of where you are and what you're doing, and then you are learning to not hold on to whether it's a food source. Hold on to whether it is some type of anger or some kind of emotional thing that you might have, or a negative outlook. Holding on to things, you're managing it by saying, you know what, that's not good for me. I'm actually putting it over here. And that's how you go. And then maximize. What are you maximizing? Maximize that plant-based diet. Maximize the things that's good. Drink more water. Exercise more. do it. And you have to be intentional about these things. I'm saying this to you, but I'm saying it to myself. I saw that I was constantly here working, writing things and speaking. And, one of the things that as someone who's constantly giving presentations and doing them live, I'm walking around up on the platform, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm moving around. Sometimes I'm getting in my 10,000 steps right in a presentation. But once we got into Zoom world and everything was on Zoom, well, guess what? I'm sitting all the time. And I said, I got to fix this. And something I don't like gym memberships. Why? Because I don't like breathing that air, and I don't like being in the gym. I like to work out outside, do my walks, work out at home. But I saw I needed to. So I joined Planet Fitness and go to the gym. So talking about how you can manage and then maximize, you gotta move. The body must move. And that's the key. That's also one of the key ways that we manage stress. What is the most productive method for addressing stress for overall health? Is managing it. So the ultimate antidote to stress is trust. It is trust. Those are your things, your references there, all the things that I've talked about, just so you know that I'm not bringing this from my own my own storehouse, as it were, but instead, this is what the experts are saying, and I'm just reporting it to you and putting it in a package where you can take it and it's something that you can see and remember and actually use. Now, I just want to close with this text. We are living in a time people are very stressed out, and it's said in the Bible, in Luke 21:26. I just want to share this with you. Men's hearts will be failing them for fear and looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. But I want you to know that from that same mouth and from that same book, it says that I will give you peace, that you can come unto me and I will give you peace. So that trust that we're looking for, that trust that we need, it comes as a result of having peace in our lives, peace in what we're doing, no regrets, not having the things that that cause us to be weakened, to be compromised, but trusting and having faith. Yeah, having faith. But ultimately, that trust is linked to a peace that surpasses even your understanding. And when you have that, no stress or manage stress. May you be blessed and too blessed to be stressed. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Rico Hill. That was amazing. I learned a lot of things about, was it telomeres?
Telomeres, yes.
That's
yes.
amazing. That's amazing. I have a question. Sure. About the telomeres. You said that nuts and seeds lengthen or lengthen the telomere, which will ultimately lengthen our lifespan. So does it matter how we use those nuts? So if we cook the nuts, because I make nut loaf, does it matter if I cook the nuts?
It does. It does.
It does. Okay.
Ultimately, the best way that you can enjoy any of your nuts and seeds is raw. That's the best way, because why? It still has all the life-giving process. It has all the life-giving ingredients, namely enzymes in them, right? Okay. When you heat up enzymes, they die, right? Over 105 degrees, they die. So you have to make sure, but that is not to discourage you from making nut loaves, because whether it's a nut loaf or nut burgers or whatever it is, it's a vastly better alternative than having a burger, actual hamburger, meat burger. So personally, I love oat burgers, and I also like oat along with garbanzo bean burgers. But when they did this study, they looked at they were looking at nuts in their raw form, not salted, not toasted, not caramelized, any of that. So not salted, whatever it is, or honey roasted, they just were raw nuts that they ate. And that makes sense because they had the greatest benefit from them, fibers intact, enzymes intact.
Thank you.
Good
So we
question.
have a question from MA. She says that or the person says that it seems that they've started to develop an allergic reaction to healthy foods such as bananas, pineapples, and grapes, and oranges, and grapefruits. Sometimes it gives them a migraine or a headache. Their question is it possible this might be because they've consumed a lot of these fruits in the past, or is it more complicated than that?
It's there are lots of reasons why people are getting allergies now. Because when you consider that we used to get on a plane, remember peanuts on a plane? Now you can't even get peanuts on a plane, right? They won't even let them get, because people have nut allergies. But that never was an issue. That was their go-to. Now it's pretzels. Who wants pretzels? So anyway, there's lots of reasons when people become allergic to things that they weren't allergic to before. A lot of times, I'm not saying always, but it could be linked to, definitely it's a gut issue. And it's probably because, unfortunately, so much of the food that we eat is genetically modified. And a lot of the GMO foods, when they actually said that it would not cause the same problem that it caused insects, that is, the whole thing was they would use these different types of pesticides, and the pesticide was from Monsanto was supposed to go in they put them, actually grow them in the seed, and then when the insect would come and eat it, their stomachs would burst and it killed them. And they said, but it won't have any effect on humans. But well, it has had an effect on humans, and it's caused a perforation in the lining of the stomach. And when that happens, we have leaky gut syndrome. That is, the foods that you eat are leaking through the lining of the stomach, getting into the bloodstream. And then after that, you just have a host of allergies. What needs to take place is not to write off those foods as I'm allergic to them now, they cause me problems. I think that the better way to approach the problem is to first identify if you have leaky gut syndrome. And if you do, begin to repair the gut. There are natural ways that people can repair their gut. 90% of what we suffer happens in our gut. We've known that for a long time. And so if that's the issue that leads to disease, then repairing. The wonderful thing about the human body is that, it is repairable. And the best way to repair it is to work in harmony with what it has been designed to do and how it's designed to function.
Amen.
I think someone mentioned just on the nuts, the question of nuts. I saw a question come up about soaking them. Yes, soaking nuts actually is sprouting them. That's what it's called, sprouting. And because a lot of people cannot actually digest some of the enzymes that are in nuts. And if you soak them, that takes care of that problem, and it makes them more bioavailable. So soaking your nuts is good. You can even purchase them sprouted now, where they've been sprouted and then they have been dried in a my mind is tired right now, but you know what I'm talking about, where they've been dried on a low heat and keeps the enzymes intact, but it dries them so that you'll enjoy them. Yep, sprouted.
Okay. MA would also like to know, how do I determine if I have a leaky gut?
This is something that you can do by going to a dehydrator. Thank you.
Dehydrate. Okay.
Dehydrator. Yeah, I've got one, a really good one too. And I'm like,
what's the term?
I kept thinking of the brand. I've got the Excalibur. What is a dehydrator? But yeah, this is something you would determine with the doctor, someone who deals with gut issues and is a specialist in that area.
Okay.
Yep. You can probably even through certain blood tests, because it will show that there's food food particles are showing up in the blood through a blood analysis. If you want to do it on cheap, you can do like a live blood analysis. Live blood analysis is a great way to look at how you can see the cells under the microscope, and you can see if there's food. It's amazing. I saw one, a friend of mine did one the other day, and as we saw the different live blood analyses that were done, And the people who actually ate meat, you just saw how the cells were clunked together and they just looked so sick and miserable versus someone who did not. And anyway, you can see what kind of food particles are affecting you at the cellular level through a live blood analysis.
Interesting. How many nuts do you suggest to be eaten per meal?
You have to keep in mind that nuts are healthy fat, but it is a fat nonetheless. And you have to show temperance there. A handful of nuts per day is all you need. So it's like a quarter cup when you think about your hand, having a hand full of nuts, right? And that's closed fist. And people get sneaky and they say, well, you know what? I can feel a lot of things in my fist, in my crawl. So I say closed fist turned upside down. Whatever falls out, you're not supposed to eat. So that's all you need.
I like that. Okay, so you spoke about processed meat, and I would like to touch on, what about vegetarian processed meat? Does that cause stress as well?
Well, here's the answer. You have to break it down because it's really the sulfates. And this is, we're talking about sulfates, we're talking about salt, high sodium. So in the processed vegetarian meats, they are very, very high in sodium. So, and I had that on the list. That's part of the 8. So just as much, right? So you have to be very careful. You got to stay in that. The best place you can be is what you're doing, sister, where you're actually, making your own nut loaves, making your own burgers. You know what's in it. You can determine how much salt you want to put in it. It has not gone into some kind of a process where, you're using high amounts of sodium for the processing of it and other types of chemicals for the processing of it. See, the thing is that you're making it for you to consume it as quickly as possible. They're making it so that it can actually sit on a shelf or sit in a freezer for however long it sits there, so you can come buy it. So that's the difference. So whether it's real processed meats or it's veggie meats, same deal.
Okay.
Minimize, because some people may be like, what? I'm eating a lot of meat, but now you're telling me I can't eat those either. So remember, minimize, manage, maximize. So you want to minimize, do as little as you can of the processed stuff and get a really good cookbook and begin to make your own stuff. Make your own patties and your own substitute meats as best you can.
Very true. Very true. I like that. I know that making your own meats, sometimes it can be taxing. Sometimes as you're thinking, what do I make? But there's so many recipes online. You can just type in exactly what you have in your cupboard on Google, and it will help you with a recipe that you can have right on hand. So Veronica would like to know, what's your take on people eating raw veggies while others say steamed tender is better?
It all depends. You find that, tomatoes, if you were to eat them raw, they are excellent, keeping those, the seeds and all that intact, not heated, not cooked. It's excellent for the heart, right? It is a fruit. It is a fruit. Someone is saying tomatoes are fruit. Thank you. But if you take that same tomato, make a sauce, heat it, it's better for men's prostate. So I'm just giving that as an example of heat versus raw. And you can kind of go down the line on various things. Kale, same thing. Kale raw is excellent for the immune system. Kale cooked is better for something else. So, and when I say cooked, it could be steamed. Broccoli there's certain ways it's good as a raw vegetable, and in certain ways it's good if you steam it. So you get the benefit either way, and steam, I like way someone is asking that question, because steaming it lightly just so that it becomes tender enough, and broccoli is necessary to do that because it's, it's very coarse and very hard to chew. Collard greens, same thing. Mustard greens and some of these other ones, Swiss chard, even more so. So you want to either, tenderize them through steaming them. Yeah, you get benefits one way or the other. Look it up and look into it, and you see which one you want. What do you need? For men, I would say get a lot of tomato sauce, eating a good pasta, one that's not refined, made from refined flour and eggs, and have yourself pasta, or make some type of a tomato soup. That's going to be excellent for your prostate. Then when you have your salad, put some tomatoes on it. Don't throw away those seeds, because they actually suppress the blood platelets that cause, heart attacks and stroke. So there you go. You get the best of both worlds.
That's very interesting. So it really just depends on how you use the vegetable for whatever your body needs it for.
That's exactly right.
Robert is asking, someone says juicing kale can lead to thyroid cancer. What's your take on this idea?
This I have not heard that juicing kale leads to thyroid cancer. I'd have to look at that research, and I don't want to comment on something that I don't know about. Okay. I would be very, just in seeing that, I would be very, very skeptical of that, simply because, there's counter science and there's counter research. I'll give you an example. Lots of science and research and studies are done against the dairy industry, the meat industry, and the things that it produces and how it's causing cancer, right? Not the least of which causing E. coli. There's a recall of, a recall of like beef or something like that because it's contaminated with E. coli. Just watch. Within a month, they'll do a recall of like romaine lettuce. And this is a counter. This is so people say, oh, it happens with vegetables too. But what they don't tell you is that the E. coli that's on the vegetable is because of runoff from all the water from the waste of cows that had E. coli, and it got into the water table, and then it actually affects the vegetables. But vegetables don't naturally have like E. coli like that. So you have to be careful. They're counted so that people don't just stop eating meat altogether, because it would disrupt the industry. They come with something that's kind of balances it out, as it were, so that people continue. So I would be skeptical of it, but I haven't seen that.
Right. There's so many takes on that. They even do that with, wine, the red wine, how you can just sip a little bit of the red wine and it's good for you. But it's the resveratrol that you find in the grapes. That is an antioxidant, and that you find in your darker color, your red color and purple color fruit and things like that, is resveratrol. So it's really the grapes and not the wine, although they promote it as it's the wine. Right.
You get the same thing from grape juice without the fermentation.
Exactly.
Really, we just need to understand how, we can do better. And most people are not eating enough, according to the studies that have been out over the last 20 years. If people just ate, they say, if people just ate the daily recommended amount of fruits and vegetables, 100,000 lives would be saved every year.
So we're going to take a couple more questions.
Yeah.
And then we will do our survey. This presentation will be on our church website. Marlene is going to put that in the chat in just a moment. So you can always come back to this presentation and share it with your family, your friends, your neighbors. There it is, empowerforhealth.com. You can always find this presentation and our previous presentations on our church on the health website. Do we have any more questions? I'm out of questions because that was just really interesting. I learned a lot. Okay, Maury has a question.
Yes, you actually, this is Sister Munjan. Okay, you spoke of a fistful, a closed fist full of nuts. Well, what about the seeds? How do you judge the seeds you eat? Like pumpkin seed and the sunflower seed.
Yeah,
They say
they're not as high. They're not as high in fat. You'll find pumpkin seeds are an excellent source of protein. It's probably the best source of protein of most foods, and it's I try to do those every day, especially as a man over 40, because they're good because they're high in zinc as well, so it's good for the prostate. So men, hear me out on that one. And then just in terms of daily use, because they actually paralyze parasites, and so they can move out the body, so they're good for that. So you can eat more of those, but temperance in all things. If you're looking for me to say a quarter cup or half a cup, that's a lot of seeds. You know what I mean? I think I think in the same, if you're just kind of just sitting around eating all day, like my niece, I have a niece, she just likes to eat pumpkin seeds. I mean, I remember, growing up that was kind of a thing that people did, and you would shell them and eat them just like that, putting all that salt in your mouth, but that bad salt, that iodized salt that's on them. But then that speaks of another problem, where you're constantly keeping your stomach inactive, keeping it active, and you don't want to do that. You want to eat your meal and stop. Let your body go ahead and go through the digestive process. So I think I see it like this. If you're having a breakfast, and I like to have my seeds, nuts, and seeds in the morning because they're fat, or fats and carbs should be done in the morning so that you actually are walking and doing things and you're active rather than your last meal of the day. So you do it in the morning, and I think of a breakfast. I put pumpkin seeds inside my oatmeal. And with my oatmeal, I put blueberries and I put a couple of walnuts, not too many. And then I have a banana. I like banana, the taste of banana with a Brazil nut, So these things kind of are a combination, but I'm not going to pull a half of a cup of pumpkin seeds into my oatmeal. So I keep it very simple.
Very good. Thank you. We have one more question. Valencia is asking, what can she do to heal inflammation in the body?
That's a very interesting question. Number one, you should go back and watch this presentation and look at what I said about inflammation in the body, what's causing an inflammatory response. It sounds to me like there's stress. I mean, from just one little question right here in this forum, at the end of it, it's hard for me to really say what that is, as from my perspective, simply because I don't know about your stress levels. I don't know what the stresses are in your life. I don't know what your diet is. But if it's any of the things that I mentioned in this presentation, I would start there and begin to minimize or eliminate. But if you're diagnosed with inflammation in the body, this is not good news. This is not good news, and you were ordained to be here tonight to hear this presentation, and you need to now start taking steps. And hopefully, if you're someone who is, engaging with Light Bearers and going to their site and attending the different programs that Light Bearers is doing, then you need to really, really send an email, get somebody's phone number, and start to connect with someone so someone can walk you through. And I should say, as we close tonight, this is when I hear these, and you may even hear it in the tone of my voice, when I hear someone who is suffering from something to the extent that they've been diagnosed, this is an area where this is where my passion lies, and I have so much compassion on people who are trying to fight the fight because they did whatever, and now they've come to the place where they're trying to make corrections, and they come to something like this, but they don't know where to start. And so I should mention that one of the things that we're doing out here for the Beehive Ministry is we're starting a home sanitarium that's launching in April. And we are taking people in for, whether you do a weekend or 10 days, and we just help you to go through simple stuff. We're not trying to put you on anything, but just the walk, the drinking of water, the eating of the right foods, and showing you, like some people don't know, what do I eat? How do I do it? Well, this is what we'll do. So you can get in touch with, through Light Bearers. If you're interested in that, you can contact me if you want to go through a program. I'm right here in the Maryland area, out here in the country on a little farm. And we're doing hydrotherapy and just doing all the things that really help people to be restored. So keep that in mind, pass the word out, get the word out, and we're happy to help you in whatever way that we can. And I want to thank you so much, Danielle.
Danielle.
It was slight, just the deal. I got it down though.
That was good though. That was good.
Danielle, thank you so much, Danielle,
for
facilitating and for hosting tonight's program. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure. We learned so much. I learned so much. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. We really enjoyed having your presence here. And Rico Hill, we thank you so much for joining us. If you could close us out with a word of prayer.
Sure, happy to do so. Let's pray together. Father in heaven, we want to thank you so much, Lord, for just the simple things that you have given us to make us well: sunshine, fresh air, water, and nutrition, Lord, and to even the chemical signals in our body that lets us know that we're not trusting. And so, Lord, we thank you that you have given us a way to be restored. So, Lord, I just want to pray for all those who especially have been diagnosed with this or that, and they're wanting to get better. They're looking for a way. So I'm asking, Lord, that you speak very definitively to them and comfort them and draw very near to them and help them to recover, that they might know you and know exactly that you are healing God. Thank you for Light Bearers and what they're doing in the community and just making these kinds of presentations available that people may find a source for health and for abundant living. Bless us now as we close tonight, and we look forward to the next time where we can hear just some simple thoughts and principles from your word and from your way and your will. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. We will send out emails. For those of you who gave us your emails last time, please, if you have not done that already, please put your emails in the chat and we can send you more information on how you can contact the Beehive Ministries. Yeah, so thank you very much, everyone, and have a good evening.